Hello everyone. In my previous lecture, we have discussed in detail what Victorian age was, what were the characteristics of Victorian age, what were the major novelists of Victorian age. Now, in that series, I am moving towards the second important novelist of Victorian age, that is Charles Dickens. And we will read Victorian age with special reference to Charles Dickens, as we have read Victorian age with special reference to George Eliot. So, we have discussed how Victorian age started. Queen Victoria was queen of that particular era. Victorian age started in 1837 until 1901. We have discussed the characteristics of Victorian age in detail, so I am not repeating that again. Now let's come to the point. What were the major poets of Victorian age? So my dear friends, Robert Browning, Lord Alfred Tennyson were two major poets of Victorian age. In fact, Lord Alfred Tennyson was the poet laureate of Victorian age. If I talk about major critics, Matthew Arnold, Walter Paton and John Ruskin were famous and major critics of Victorian age. If I talk about the novelists, so today the topic of my discussion is Charles Dickens. So my special reference will be only to this novelist, that is Charles Dickens. So my dear friends, what William Shakespeare was for Elizabethan age, Charles Dickens is for Victorian age. We cannot imagine Elizabethan age without William Shakespeare. In the same manner, we cannot imagine Charles Dickens and Victorian age in a separate manner. Both are complementary to each other. So Charles Dickens' novels, they represent the spirit of Victorian age in full-fledged manner. He had swayed over the whole 19th century. He was the master of novels. So he had control over the whole 19th century. Born on Feb 7 in 1812 in England, he started a collection of semi-fictional sketches entitled The Sketches of Boz. And his first novel was Pickwick Paper, which was serialized in 1836. If I talk about the major characteristics of Charles Dickens and his novels, what are they? Let's have a look. So he was the true representative of his age. As I told you earlier, what William Shakespeare was to Elizabethan age, Charles Dickens is for Victorian age. He was the true representative of his age. If you really want to know what Victorian age actually was, you should read the novels of Charles Dickens. And he was most typical. Now, what is the meaning of typical? It means that his novels reflect every nook and corners of Victorian age. His novels truly reflect what actually was happening in the Victorian age. So they were most typical. Now, in his novels, he has openly criticized some of the bad habits of rich and sympathized with the poor. But my dear friends, neither rich nor poor hated him. He was loved by one and all. His novels were that popular, he was the favorite novelist of everyone. And his popularity is ever increasing. Though he used to write in Victorian age, but if you read his novels in this particular time also, you would love them. Now, what are the major famous novels of Charles Dickens? Let's have a look. They are Oliver Twist, Christmas Carol, David Copperfield, A Tale of Two Cities, Bleak House, Great Expectations, and Mystery of Edward Durant. Unlike other novelists, Dickens was not interested in the romanticism of his age. Rather, his major focus was on exposing the bitter truth of the society. He was a novelist who was not indulged in the imaginative and goody-goody aspects of the society. He was a novelist who wanted to see what was happening in reality in the Victorian society. So he gives the realistic pattern of the society, good versus bad, virtue versus vices, dark versus bright. He was very much interested in seeing the proportion of all these virtues in his novel. He wrote about the life of London orphanage houses, circus, slum houses, workhouses, law court and prison houses. Almost all of his novels, they reflect such one particular problem of that aspect of the society. And all his novels are, they emphasize a particular problem of a particular subject in the society. If you see, he writes about problems of workhouses in Oliver Twist, problem in delayed in law court in bleak houses, and boarding schools problem in great expectations. If we talk about the moralism in Charles Dickens' novel, so my dear friends, you have to believe that there is a very beautiful blend of realism and imagination in Charles Dickens' novel. He was a moralist by heart, an idealist at work. He wanted to see the society as an ideal society. He wanted to strike the bitter truth of the society very sharply through his pen. So he wanted to see the morality in human beings. The milk of morality should flow in the veins of human being. It was the motto of Charles Dickens. And he criticized openly the sinful life of Victorian society with the highest pitch of his voice. He talked about child labor, poor education system, corruption in politics, and undue emphasis on facts. He never shrinks, he never feels hesitated to talk about the truth of all these aspects of the society. If I talk about Charles Dickens as a social reformer, he has very razor sharp humor. Through his humor, he used to slash the individual who is not doing good for the society. He is master of razor sharp humor, and he expressed the follies of social, political and moral aspects of the society. And he openly comments on all the sections of the society like tyrannical schoolmasters, corrupt government officers, unethical businessmen and blood-sucking rich. He never hesitated to talk about them. And he openly sympathizes with the poor factory workers, exploited children in boarding school, beaten prisoners in jail and delayed justice, etc. W.S. Cross has rightly hailed him as the greatest reformer for full 30 years. Through his novels, through his stories, he wanted to see that reform in the society. So he was the greatest reformer of all the times. If we talk about humors in Charles Dickens' novels, so my dear friends, as a humorist, he stands only to William Shakespeare. We cannot forget how great humorist William Shakespeare was. We can say the same thing, same line for Charles Dickens also. Because it is impossible to forget characters like Mr. Micawber, Mrs. Gup, Mr. Guppy and Mr. Pumblechook. As you can see, even the names are very funny. Though it is also very true that he was not able to create such memorable characters like Falstaff. But still, as a humorist, there is no denying the fact that Charles Dickens was a great artist. He makes fun of their hypocrisy, vanity, greed, insulting behavior towards poor, especially women and children. With his humor, with his sharp pen, he has tried to mend these problems prevalent in the society. As if we talk about the art of characterizations in Charles Dickens' novel, he was the greatest of all, right? No one can defeat him if comes the art of characterization, because he was the master of it, master of this technique. He took characters from all aspects of the society and they present the variety in life. They are from every nook and corner of the society. They represent different colors of the people, different colors of their behavior. There are basically 4 different types of character. Innocent children like Oliver, Joe, Paul and Pip. Horrible characters like Fagin, Bill Skikes. Humorous characters like Micawber, Sam Weller. And powerful characters like Lady Dedlock, Miss Havisham. It is just impossible to forget the character of Miss Havisham in Great Expectations. Though everything is not that perfect in the novels of Charles Dickens, there are some shortcomings also, some fallouts also. What are they? Let's have a look. There is loose plot construction in the novels of Charles Dickens. Means somewhere or other his plots are loosely constructed. Maybe the reason is that because he used to write novels in serial forms. They used to come in the shape of series in different magazines which used to be published weekly or monthly. Maybe because of that, and he was paid for every single word. So therefore he wanted to write more so that he should be paid more. So we see that the plots are loosely constructed and there is no coherence between their storylines. There is no unity also. He gives very less attention to the unity of time, place and action. And as I told you earlier, because of the series, there is number of diversion in the storyline, in the characters of Charles Dickens' novel. Sometimes I do feel so. There is useless, diversions, descriptions, unnecessary descriptions in the novels of Charles Dickens, which should be deleted while writing a well-lit plot. He was actually a good storyteller, but not a good story builder. Means the story he was telling was very interesting, but the way he was constructing the story was not that great. So here are some loopholes in the writings or in the novels of Charles Dickens. Now, as I told you earlier, my main focus will be on Oliver Twist, one of his very famous novels. So Oliver Twist, or we can say The Parish Boy's Progress. Oliver Twist was his second novel, which was published again in serial form from 1837 to 1839. In this particular novel, he unromantically means without any beautiful description or without any too much of imagination of the society, unromantically portrays the sordid life of the cruel treatment of many orphanage in London in mid-19th century. Through the characters of innocent Oliver, Dickens criticizes child labor, domestic violence, recruitment of children as criminals. If we talk about the storyline of Oliver Twist, here is a short summary about that. Oliver Twist was born in 1830 in England. When he was born, nobody knew what is the name of his mother. The mother name has not been revealed, and she just died after giving birth to Oliver Twist. For the very first 9 years, he lived in an orphanage, and then later on he was translated into warehouse. There he was bullied by some of the boys. First, when he asked for more food, he was beaten freshly. Again, the writer is criticizing this aspect of Victorian society. Not proper food was available for the children in orphanage house. And second, there people used to make fun of his mother. They used to call bad names to his mother because the name of the father is not known, right? So he was brutally thrashed, insulted in that workhouse, and he is forced to run away from the wrath of Showerbury, and he escapes to London. Now, from the reality of workhouses, the writer shifts his attention to the reality of London suburban society, that society which was not privileged. What was happening in that society? There, tired and starving, he meets Jack Darwin, who offers him food. But my dear friends, there is nothing like free lunch. One has to pay for everything. So he makes him meet a criminal. Name of the criminal is Fagin, who turns orphans into pickpocketers. Here, Oliver Twist gets his training and goes for his first stealing mission. And he is supposed to steal a handkerchief from a very nice man, that is Mr. Brownlow. In that attempt, Mr. Brownlow happens to see Oliver Twist, but he knows that Oliver Twist is not the boy who wanted to steal. So he saves Oliver Twist from police custody, and then he takes Oliver Twist to his own house. And in his own house, when Oliver Twist sees that Mr. Brownlow is having a portrait of a lady, and that lady has very strong resemblance with the face cut of Oliver Twist, he faints. Later, two members of Fagin gang kidnap Oliver Twist and take him back to his gang. Here, again, Oliver is forced into burglary and ends up getting shot. So the owner of the house, Mrs. Miley, and her niece takes care of Oliver Twist. They rescued him, takes him in, and takes care of Oliver Twist, gives him food, gives him shelter, gives him clothes, a luxurious life. For the very first time, Oliver was getting this much kind of love from the society. So, but again, the plan is revealed to, again, Fagin is interested to get Oliver Twist back into his gang. And this plan is revealed to Rose by Nancy, one of the gang members, and she gets brutally murdered because of it. Then, after lots of hosh-posh, lots of confusion, finally Oliver is reunited with Mr. Brownlow by the Mileys, and it is discovered that Oliver has a half-brother named is Monk, who has been looking for him to ensure that Oliver should not get claim for his inheritance. So what is revealed is that Monk and Oliver Twist has same father. They are half brother, right? So it was condition of Oliver Twist's father, if my child becomes corrupt, he should not get any of my inheritance. So Monk was very much interested to make Oliver Twist corrupt so that the family property should not go to him. But now the cat is out of the bag. Brownlow gets Monk to give Oliver his share of inheritance, and Rose is discovered to be Oliver Twist's aunt, a sister of Oliver's mother. So that is why the face on the portrait has strong resemblance with Oliver Twist, because she was actually the sister of Oliver Twist's auntie, that is Rose. So Fagin gets hanged for the crime, and Mr. Brownlow adopts Oliver Twist. He makes him his son, and they relocate to the countryside with the Malays to live in bliss. And in this way, the novel comes to a happy ending. So, my dear friends, it is basically a Bildungsroman novel in which the character, the central character, the protagonist, develops mentally, physically, socially, emotionally. A whole series of development has been shown by the artist. And Oliver Twist is not just the story of one boy named Oliver Twist, it's the story of so many Oliver Twists in London society, what they are going through, what is happening in their life, how they had to face difficulties and problems in their life, and how at the end everything comes to a happy halt, right? So this was my presentation, this was my discussion of Victorian age with special reference to Charles Dickens. My dear friends, if you really like this discussion, we can discuss any other further novelist in which you are interested with. So we can discuss that later on. For now, that's all. We'll meet again. For that, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care.